sbagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo, ancora Pirlo di tacco, tiro, gol! Grosso, gol di Grosso, manca un minuto, gol di Grosso.
Hello and welcome to the Milan Talk podcast. I'm your host Samik Paul and I'm delighted to say we've got the 4-0 win over Spal on the agenda today. Milan made it 4 wins in their last 5 Serie A games. A brace from Patrick Cutrone, coupled with goals from Lucas Biglia and shock-horror Fabio Borini, secured all 3 points. Looking at the positives to start with, I feel as though Milan have too often risked surrendering a slender lead this season. I felt as though that pattern of play was at risk of being repeated in the first half, but to their credit, they killed off the game in the second half with regular goals, and on top of that, the impressive run of results goes on. That's now 8 games unbeaten in all competitions. Naturally, that's going to continue to build confidence and belief in this team, so plenty of positives to take away from this one. There was, however, one negative that I want to bring up, and that was the ongoing struggle between protecting a lead and going into survival mode. Shortly after our first goal, I do feel as though we retreated too much. We gave Spal too much time, too much space, too much possession. They gained confidence from that and looked a threat. You obviously had the Viviani free kick, which hit the post, and they had their other moments that they looked dangerous in. So it could have been very different going into the halftime break. Fortunately, it wasn't. Gattuso mentioned it in his post-match interview, so obviously it's something that he noticed and hopefully he'll address. But as I mentioned, 4-0 win, so many positives that outweigh the negatives. It's difficult to complain too much, but that is certainly a negative that I did pick up on. Manager rating out of 10 to start with, I've given Gattuso a 7. I do feel as though he's now starting to convince me that he's transformed this team. Yes, it's one thing playing with grit, playing with determination, but he's rattling off positive results on a consistent basis. He's getting key decisions right, i.e. bringing in Cutrone today. Tactically, there's not much that you can criticise him on. I know I did mention a negative there, but it does sound as though he's noticed it and it's something that he'll act upon. So for me, he deserves plenty of praise, plenty of credit, and I've given him a 7 out of 10 on this occasion. On to the player ratings, starting with Donnarumma, I've given him a 6. Couple of scary moments in his performance. There was one instance where he elected to punch rather than catch the ball when he came out of his area. Another where him and Bonucci were trying to play out from the back. Donnarumma eventually had to put the ball out of play, scurried back to his goal, almost got booked for delay in the game. So those little instances need to be cut out of his game. Ultimately, though, didn't have a great deal to do. There wasn't really much of a threat there, so giving him a 6 out of 10. Abate also gets a 6. I think it was a solid performance in terms of him carrying out his defensive duties. I think he gave Spal minimal sort of opportunities down that left flank of theirs. Reserved in attack, perhaps could have done more to get up and support Suso, but for me, decent enough performance. That's why I've given him a 6. Bonucci gets a 7, a very physical battle there at the back, but alongside Romagnoli, I feel as though they did well to keep things tight, registered a well-earned clean sheet, and another solid performance from the Milan captain, so I've given him a 7. Alessio Romagnoli gets a 7 as well. Perhaps should be bumped up to maybe a 7.5, because I did feel as though he did that little bit more than Bonucci. Again, another great performance, barely put a foot wrong in defence, looked composed as always on the ball in possession. Doesn't always get as plaudits as I feel as though he deserves. I think he should get more, but quietly goes about his business, having an absolutely brilliant season, and long may it continue. So for Romagnoli, 7, but Ricardo Rodriguez gets a 6, a decent display coming back into the team. I felt like he played his part defensively in getting that clean sheet. However, there still is something missing with him compared to his performances earlier in the season. Whether it's confidence, whether it's another factor, I don't know, but there is still a factor missing in that performance of his. So hopefully he rediscovers it and he builds and kicks on, but a 6 out of 10, decent enough performance from me, can't complain too much. Frank Kessie gets a 7, covered so much ground in this one. Unfortunately, he picked up that booking, which means he's suspended against Sampdoria, and that will hurt us. He's not easily replaceable. There isn't, for me, another individual in this squad who can replicate his energy, his tenacity, his combativeness. So he is going to be a massive miss there. On this occasion, I did feel as though we were missing a bit of his driving force in midfield. He didn't do much with the ball at his feet. However, very important in the physical battle to protect the lead, so I've given him a 7 out of 10. Lucas Biglia also gets a 7. I think it was another assured performance in terms of breaking up play, providing that defensive shield in front of the defence, and I do feel as though he kept possession ticking and kept things simple. It is a criticism of mine. I do feel as though he could do more. Sometimes the play bypasses him, but I'm not going to criticise him on this one. I think he had a very good performance. Capped it off with a great goal. Very nice finish from the Argentine there to get the goal. His first for Milan. So has to be happy with overall with the performance. And I've given him a 7. So on to Bonaventura. I've given him a 6. Not particularly one of his best performances. I feel as though he had his moments in the game in terms of the team build-up play. but we didn't see enough from him on an individual basis, so I've had to mark him down to a 6, but hopefully more from Jack to come next time out, but just not one of his better performances for me. Suso also gets a 7. I think he came under an enormous amount of pressure. Spal obviously had a tactic to foul him at every available opportunity. Perhaps critical of him that he had his back to goal too much, kind of invited those tackles on. But crucial in the build-up to the first 2 goals, continued to be a threat thereafter. More often than not, you know what Suso is going to do. You know, he's looking for that bit of space to jink onto his left foot, cross it in or take a shot for himself. However, he's just so good at doing it. He's so quick with his feet. It's very impressive. So he manages to be a threat for us. He seems to have put that bad run of form behind him. So I'm happy with his performance on this occasion. That's why I've given him a 7. My man of the match, Patrick Cutrone, gets an 8. Took his tally to 12 goals for the season. His first goal stands out for me because at 20 years of age, I find it very impressive that he's got this effortless ability to sniff out a goal and find himself in the right place at the right time. That's a trait that really, you'd expect strikers to work on and gain experience and become great at doing that. He just seems to have a natural gift for it. So I'm really happy with him. Continues to prove how crucial he is to this team. And long may it continue. Goals are one thing. Yes, again, as I mentioned, he's impressing with his positional play. Always, works hard for the team, tracks back, closes down. Still needs to work on other areas of his game to become like an all-round top striker. Like if he can offer more in the build-up play, if he can hold the ball up better, if he can just do those bits a bit better, we can see a top player being established here. So, but on the basis of this performance, 8 out of 10, took his goals really well, found himself in the right place at the right time. So really happy with Cutrone, and let's see if he can continue his rich reign of form. Hakan Çalhanoğlu gets a 7. I believe he continued his positive run of performances. It wasn't particularly influential or decisive, but continues to be important in terms of building play, his vision, his passing. Another positive outing for me. I think, he's got that decisive bit of class that can make a telling impact in a game. Didn't see that so much this time round, but another positive performance in the bank, and he can be happy with himself. And let's see him continue to kick on in the upcoming weeks. Substitutes, Ricardo Montolivo. I've given him a 6. Great assist for Barini's goal. Came on and looked like he had a real sense of wanting to make an impression. Forced the issue, and I've given him a 6 for that. Silva gets a 5. I didn't think he did a great deal. Did hold up the ball well at times, but ultimately he's just brought on to see out the game, win it for us. And I was hoping for a breakthrough to boost his confidence, but unfortunately it didn't come. So I've had to give him a 5. Barini, I would give him a 6. He got his goal, and for me, he absolutely deserves that for all the hard work he's been putting in this season. Great to see him have an impact off the bench and add further gloss to the win. But on a sort of individual basis, he deserves that after all the hard work that he's put in. So I'm really happy for him. So giving him a 6. Twitter comments, Rishab Dabari, at Rishab Dabari. Great game today. Good game from our midfield. Inzaghi moves from Cutrone. Good defensive performance with some hiccups from Rodriguez for the most part, but very solid. Only concern was honestly the fact that Silva looks like he has lost all confidence. Rishab, absolutely echo all your thoughts there. Great game. Midfield was good. Inzaghi movements from Cutrone. That's a very good sort of comparison to be made. I know Cutrone didn't want to be compared, but the way that he does find himself in those positions and the kind of limitations of his game, you would bundle that all together and say Inzaghi's certainly the path to follow. Defensively, fantastic. Yep. And Rodriguez, yes, that was a little bit of a hiccup there, but ultimately it was a good performance from everyone overall. Concern with Silva, yeah, I would agree. I think it is unfortunate. It's difficult for him to come on in these 15-20 minutes at the end of games to really come on and make an impact. I think it's going to take a real sort of slice of luck to get in that goal, to get him back on the path, really. So hopefully he gets that. I hope maybe he might even start in midweek if Kalinic isn't back. But yeah, that is a concern, but hopefully we can see more from him. Just a couple of random comments about Cutrone. A couple of people mentioned him as a proper poacher. Pipo Inzaghi 2.0. Certainly see that, and let's see if he can continue this rich vein of form. Samir Mohammed, at Samir Mohammed 72. His positives was a great second half. We can control the match much more. Abate was good defence. Cutrone is our Filippo Inzaghi. Hakan has been great for the past few matches. Again, 100% agree with all your points there, Samir. Second half, massive improvement. Was really happy. Abate was good. Defensively, we were sound. Cutrone, the next Inzaghi. Yep, agree. See those comparisons. And Hakan, again, long may it continue. We're definitely seeing more positive from him. Negatives from Samir. Kessie will miss Sampdoria. Of course, that's a massive blow for us. A big game as well, considering the standings at the moment. And I want more from Jack. Echo those points as well, as I mentioned in my player ratings. Definitely think we could have seen more from him. Rodriguez didn't do anything as well. Another one seems to be a common theme. Rodriguez definitely needs to pick up his game and do more. Question from Samir is, so Hakan is Kessie's replacement? I do see that sort of box-to-box comparison. I feel as though Hakan can do that. We've seen him track back. We've seen him with those brilliant sliding tackles to kind of regain possession. Obviously, the offensive talents that he brings to the table as well, he can definitely do a job. I think Gattuso even mentions when he first got the job, he does see Hakan as a box-to-box player, so you never know, we might see that. Whether there's an imbalance there, that's the only issue with Bonaventura, Biglia and Hakan as the three in the middle. I don't know, but there certainly might be an option that comes up in discussions for next week. And Samir's flop of the match was Ricardo Rodriguez, and of course his man of the match was Cutrone. So guys, thanks all for listening. Leaving your comments as always, much appreciated. I'll be back on Thursday with your thoughts on Milan's Europa League clash with Ludogorets. Let's hope there's more of the same coming up. Happy with the 4-0 win. Still a couple of things to be worked on, particularly the first half performance, but ultimately so many positives to take away from it rather than negatives, and we have to be happy with this run that we're on. So until then, speak to you soon, and Forza Milan.